Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video, which is going to be another highly requested fragrances video. I'm going to be sharing my top 10 all-time favorite perfumes. We've got a very eclectic mix here on the table in front of me. We've got something for everybody. Fragrances for date nights, fragrances for winter, fragrances for summer. We've got fragrances to scare people, fragrances for interviews, for the office, fragrances that are crowd pleasers, and fragrances that are people repellers, and everything in between. So if you want to know my top 10 most loved, most used fragrances, you've come to the right place. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first of all, we've got a couple of elephants in the room to address. We are in a different location. I'm in my same room, same setup, except I am using studio light today rather than natural daylight, which, to be honest, I'm trying to fully give up on at this point. It's not easy for me to give up on things. I don't do very well with that, but I think it's time that we let it go because it's just not working for anybody. So I've been wanting to film here. I've got a couple of locations in this room that I can film in, and I haven't filmed here before, mainly because I've been flogging the dead horse that has been natural daylight, and I'm side on to the window here, so that's why I haven't tried it out. But I thought, for the interest of keeping things fresh and, you know, just trying something a bit new, we would try this other filming location. So let me know what you think. Do you like it? Do you prefer the other one? I'm planning on kind of just moving back and forth just to keep things a little interesting and give you new things to look at behind me. But let me know, what do you think? Is it better? Is it worse? Do you hate it? Let me know. Now, fragrances. Typically on my channel, fragrance videos don't do very well, so I try not to do them very, very often because a video tanking on your channel is just not good for your channel at all. It does tend to damage your views and it tends to damage the algorithm with regards to your channel, so I can't afford to do them very often. But a lot of you who know me, who follow me on Instagram, you'll know I'm a huge frag head. I love my fragrance, especially niche fragrances. I've got a glorious collection that I've built over the last few years when I've really been getting into my fragrance, but I don't really talk about it very often on my channel because, like I said, the majority of my audience clearly aren't as interested in fragrance as you are in makeup, which is completely fair enough, and I do have to keep that in mind. But myself, I love talking about fragrance. I love learning about fragrance. I love trying out new fragrances. So for those of you who, like me, just love fragrance and talking about it and finding new favorites, this one is especially for you. And if you do want to see a bit more fragrance on my channel, please engage with this video, like it, comment, share, and that will really, really help it do as well as it possibly can, although low expectations because I just know a lot of my audience would rather makeup than fragrance. So I apologize to you if you're one of these people who are just not interested in fragrance, but if you're here anyway, then thank you so much for joining me today. My taste in fragrance used to be quite specific. There was a certain style of fragrance that I loved, which typically were warm, spicy fragrances. I like something quite unusual. I love something that doesn't smell like everybody else, that smells a bit different, that has something interesting to it that isn't a generic fragrance, which is why I initially got into the niche fragrance realm to begin with, because that's where you find these fragrances that you're not going to find anybody walking down the street with the same fragrance on as you. No, everyone is going to be a bit intrigued. What is that you're wearing? What is that note? Just more interesting, different, unique, special fragrances. But I will say my tastes in the last maybe year or so have definitely branched out a little because I've just been trying more. I did a sort of mini low buy fragrance year last year where I decided I only wanted to buy one fragrance a month, so 12 fragrances max for the year. And the reason behind that was because my collection was getting to a point where I just didn't feel like I could use all of my fragrances. It was too much. And so I really didn't want to keep growing it. I felt like it got to the perfect size where I had lots to play with and lots of fragrances I just adored for every season, but I didn't want it to massively increase any further because it was just getting too much for me to use and enjoy everything. So I became very, very picky. And that what I started doing was only trying or buying fragrances that were different to something that I already owned. And that led me to sort of discover a few new loves and a few new types of fragrance and notes in fragrance that I love that I didn't know that I was going to. Something different that was kind of outside of my usual go-to fragrance style. So we've got a bit more of a mixture in here, not just warm, spicy, smoky, beast mode fragrances. I've got a little bit of variance in here, which is nice, isn't it? So today I decided to share my top 10 all-time favorite fragrances. These are the ones that I love the most, that I'm drawn to use the most frequently out of my whole collection. And we've got some absolutely stunning fragrances here. So kicking us off, we have Nihilo The Irreverents. Now for a start, this bottle is absolutely outrageously beautiful. Nihilo's perfume bottles are some of my all-time favorites, just so elegant and understated but beautiful and sophisticated at the same time. So this fragrance was designed in 2020 to capture the essence of London, which always slightly puts me on edge because I feel like typically, I don't know, London is not a place I want to smell of, having lived there and been born there in fact, and lived there for many years. It's not, I don't walk around the streets of London and think, I wish I smelled like this, typically. So that's not really, you know, a selling point for me. So I was a little nervous. I was drawn to this fragrance because of the saffron and caramel notes in here. Two of my all-time favorite notes in fragrance. So immediately that lured me in, and that combination, again, one of my all-time favorites. And I'm so glad I did. This is very much a cozy and warming fragrance, but it also has quite an airy quality to it as well. It's got some sweetness from the caramel, and it also has vanilla and tonka in the base, so plenty of sweetness, but never a gourmand, never sickly, never too sweet. This is, I would say, a year-round fragrance, but probably in summer it would be an evening only. It's not heavy or thick or syrupy. It stays a bit light and airy, but it's very mysterious, and I find this uber sexy. This for me would be something that I would wear on a first date, a date night. It's not sort of too strange that it might be a little off-putting or divisive. I feel like it's a real crowd pleaser because it's got some crowd-pleasing notes in there, but it is very intriguing, and it's not going to smell like everybody else. It's going to be something where someone gets a waft of you and wonders what that is, and it's very, very interesting and intriguing, which I love. I love a bit of mystery. You know, performance wise, this is incredible longevity. It's the sort of fragrance that will make it through a shower, but it's not screechily loud. It's not going to fill a room, but everybody who comes near you will get a little waft of it, and for a really long time. What I will say is that is a general quality that I look for in all of my fragrances. My skin eats fragrance for breakfast, so I can't wear fragrances that are very, very quiet. I pretty much need beast mode fragrances, and that doesn't mean that all of my fragrances fill a room and overwhelm everybody down the street, because on me and my skin nothing really does that. It's quite rare that I would wear a fragrance and my skin would allow it to like be really loud and really strong, because like I said, my skin just, I don't know what it is, it just eats fragrance for breakfast. And yes, I have tried everything, moisturizing, layering, etc. It's just the way that my skin is. So all of these fragrances that I'm going to talk to you about today have varying modes of incredible longevity and sillage. There's nothing weak here, because it would not have made it A, into my collection, and certainly not be into my top 10 if it was a weak fragrance. So you don't have to worry about that here. Next up, let's talk about my latest fragrance love of my life, and this is Maison Mataha's Café des Delices. This is what I talked about in my what month are we in now? October beauty roundup. I picked up a decant of this because I was unsure how I would feel about it. Given the name being Café des Delices, I assumed this would be very heavily coffee, and I have a couple of coffee fragrances with coffee notes in them that I enjoy, but I don't love a heavy coffee fragrance. So I was a little hesitant, but I wanted to try it. And the second I got my decant and I tried it out, I knew it was going to be a full bottle. Another absolutely outrageously beautiful bottle. I'm actually struggling to hold this up like this. It's very heavy, very beautiful. So this is a brand new Oriental vanilla fragrance. And it's interesting because in the brand's description, they mention coffee creme. So I wonder if that, you know, on the notes list, it says coffee and has coffee bean pictured there, but in the description it says coffee creme, and I wonder if that is why I don't get a huge strong coffee note from this at all. It actually smells like it has something like cocoa or maybe praline in the opening. It has a chocolatey quality to it. Maybe it's a macchiato is what I pondered in my roundup. It definitely has that sort of burnt sugar. You can very much picture sitting in a very luxurious cafe somewhere, gorgeous, with very expensive pastries and glorious coffees around you. It's absolutely beautiful, very smooth, warm, but again, never sickly or too sweet. I am not someone who likes a gourmand. There is maybe one fragrance in this 10 that I would say is anywhere near really approaching a classic gourmand fragrance. And this for me just stays shy of going into gourmand territory. It's really not overly sweet. It really doesn't smell overly like sickly, and it's also not obnoxiously loud, which when you look at these notes, I feel like you'd think this is going to be so cloying and heavy and sickly and really too much for, you know, any kind of office environment or daytime fragrance, and it's not at all. It stays warm and cozy and comforting, but in a lighter way. It never becomes too heavy, too sickly, which I find absolutely stunning. The dry down is ridiculously beautiful. Tonka and musk, still with that bit of that biscuity, creamy hint of coffee pulling through, is just absolutely divine. This has become like one of my most used go-to day-to-day fragrances. It's a real crowd pleaser. It's very cozy and comforting. My children love it. My husband loves it. It smells like home. Somehow homely fragrance, absolutely gorgeous, really wearable, become, like I said, one of my most used go-to fragrances. Next up, we have Parfums de Marly's Althaiir, and Parfums de Marly, one of my all-time favorite fragrance houses. I trust them implicitly, but when this was initially coming out, which I think was it last summer, 2023, so 2 summers ago now, I get excited about any fragrance from Parfums de Marly, but this one, I wasn't sure I was going to like it. It has quite a citrusy opening, and that is just not something that I'm typically look for in my fragrance, or I'm typically into. Citrus is just not something that's really for me, hence why I bought the smaller size and have lived to regret it ever since. Feeling this now, I think this might be on its way out. I can't see at all. Oh, maybe I can. Is that? Yes, I actually can. So it's down to about here. I actually can see with the light shining through. We're a good, I'd say 2/3 through the bottle. This is the most wearable, perfect summer fragrance. You know, at the beginning when I said that I started to branch out a bit in my fragrances, and instead of just sticking to these warm, spicy, really, you know, tobacco heavy sort of fragrances that I started off on my niche journey with, this was one of the first outside of my comfort zone, out of the box fragrances that I tried, and it kind of set off my experimenting with different notes and different styles of fragrances, because I couldn't believe how much I loved this. Given when I look at these notes, it shouldn't be for me on paper. There's so much in here, you know, with the fruitier notes, the citrusy notes in the opening, some of that dry down almond and praline. I didn't know that I loved almond until I bought this fragrance and grew to love it. That is now a note that I really look for. But again, I was really put off when I saw the description of this. And then I saw some people I trust and know who like the same fragrances as me using and loving this, and I thought I have to try it. And this really changed my whole fragrance mindset of sticking to what I knew, because this was very different for me and I loved it. What I really liked about this initially is, like I said, it's so versatile. Probably the most versatile fragrance I have on my desk, I think, that can be worn spring, summer, autumn, winter, daytime, evening, to the office, on holiday, on a date night. It can work for any occasion. It's got some elements and qualities that I love, but it stays a bit fresher because of those citrusy notes in the opening. And also, without having a really heavy vanilla dry down, it stays a bit lighter because the vanilla is in the middle. So it doesn't become sickly sweet or overwhelming or too warm for summer. It just stays right on the edge of being a perfect summer fragrance because it incorporates those beautiful citrusy notes that just force it to stay a little fresh and a little fruitier without it becoming too heavy when the sort of warmer, spicier notes come in the dry down. So it's so wearable. It's got, like, it almost smells very familiar, but also like nothing you ever smelled at the same time. Very wearable, very unique, very, very versatile, beautiful, citrusy fragrance with lots of twists, and I'm going to be running out of it very soon. Next up, let's talk about Nishane's 100 Silent Ways X, and I have a little bit of a sort of journey with this fragrance to discovering it, because I initially tried 100 Silent Ways. So Nishane's 100 Silent Ways was a very popular fragrance for the brand, probably their bestseller. That is quite a gourmand, very sweet fragrance, very popular, very beautiful. I ordered a decant of that and just found it smelled for me a little too young for me. It's something I thought if I was 20 or in my 20s, this would be my go-to Holy Grail signature scent. It's stunning. But I feel like now in my 40s, it smelt a little young for my tastes and just my preferences where they are now. And then Nishane's 100 Silent Ways X came along. And this is 100 Silent Ways with a really big dollop of leather. So if you are familiar with 100 Silent Ways, literally the best way I can describe this is someone is wearing 100 Silent Ways with an incredible, expensive, fragrant leather jacket on the top. That's what this smells like. And that leather note just really matures this fragrance for me and just makes it so much more unusual and unique and special. And oh my goodness, again, I didn't know I loved leather in fragrance until I discovered this. Oh, I could live in this fragrance. You know, as I've said, I don't love gourmand fragrances. I don't like anything that smells too edible or too sweet or too cloying or too sickly. The leather in this just stops this ever becoming too girly or sweet or sickly or gourmand. It is so, I can't stop smelling it. Can you tell? It's addictive. If you wear this, people are going to be wanting to smell your neck all of the time. You can see again, although I haven't had this long, I think this came out again in 2023 and I don't think I purchased it instantly. This is half gone already, and given the size of my collection, that says it all really. It's warming, but at the same time it has that lightness from the sweeter notes. Just stunning, so sexy and so addictive. You know, if you spray this on your wrist, you will find yourself up in there the entire day. It has a lot of my favorite notes in here, but again, it's got a lot that I love unexpectedly. I'm not really a floral girl at all. And again, I don't buy a lot of white floral fruity fragrances. Something about this is different, which is why I loved it so much, because it really ticked that box of being something I don't already own, but still being able to love it. And that's exactly what happened with this fragrance. I fell head over heels in love with it. This is, again, I'd say it's my go-to evening fragrance now because it's just so sexy and it's not pungent. It's not going to be overwhelming. It's not too heavy or too masculine. It stays a little feminine with like a masculine twist from that leathery note, but it's approachable and I feel like it's crowd pleasing but different at the same time. So it's so perfect for evenings, for date nights, for dinners. Just beautiful, can't get enough of it. Next up, a very popular fragrance that is non-stop talked about, or less so maybe nowadays, but 5 or so years ago, this was like the only fragrance anybody could smell in the niche fragrance world because everybody was wearing it. But it's Baccarat Rouge 540, and this is the Extrait. I have both the regular fragrance and the Extrait as well. I prefer the Extrait, and I think the reason for that is this smells a little more rich to me. I think the original is a little lighter and airier. This has a little more substance to it, which I love. This is the smaller travel size bottle, which I purchased because I wanted to take this on holiday with me, and I'm so glad I did because I feel like this is the perfect holiday fragrance. This really is a woodsy saffron bomb. It has this really light, airy quality to it with some sweetness. Some people would describe this as having like a hospital note, like smell, something a little sort of chemically about it. That I don't really get that on me. I understand what people are talking about. That's the airy notes, that saffron that I absolutely love, but isn't for everybody. This is so beautiful. Yes, it is one that has been copied and duped to the high heavens, but the original for me, it just stands out. Nothing quite smells exactly the same as this, and I feel like it's very elegant. It smells very sophisticated. And yes, it's less unusual these days than when it first came out because it has been so imitated, but with good reason. It's a stunning fragrance, absolutely beautiful, and the quality and just the overall body of this fragrance really sets it apart, and it's just so wearable. Again, this is one that I wear all year round, spring, summer, winter, daytime, evening. It never gets too sickly, too sweet, because the sweetness isn't coming from like a really heavy gourmand place. It comes from a really well-rounded place, and so it doesn't become, you know, too feminine. It's very much a unisex fragrance with some sweetness. Absolutely stunning crowd pleaser. Next up, we have Cave's Sunset Caramel. This bottle, I mean, I could say this about every single one of these fragrances because they are all niche, expensive luxury fragrances. They all have beautiful bottles, but oh, that lid, divine. Just the colours really suits the name so beautifully with that sunset label. Stunning. So this is really a very lactonic fragrance, beautiful summer holiday fragrance to me. It's very much got a bit of a tropical twist, really coconutty, really creamy, with some fruity and floral notes in the middle, and then you've got that stunning caramel in the dry down, but it's not a heavy sweet caramel, it's just a hint. It stays lactonic and creamy and coconutty throughout with these little hints of sweetness as the fragrance dries down. This is like the perfect summer, daytime, warm weather, holidays, tropical beaches kind of fragrance. It literally smells very pina colada-y minus the pineapple. Again, a fragrance that I've sort of been looking for this type of fragrance, but nothing quite being exactly perfect for what I want until I discovered this. It's not, if I was to wear this in the winter, it would never get really heavily performing. It wouldn't ever reach a huge sillage. But in summer, it doesn't ever get over the top either because it has those lighter, quite fruity florals in the middle. It again stays not too sickly, not too gourmand, not too heavy. It stays this beautiful, slightly powdery, creamy, lactonic, coconutty delight. Really beautiful, like became probably my most worn fragrance throughout the summer. It's just perfect for summer, holidays, any warm weather. You're literally going to smell like a tropical beach. Now going from one extreme to another, we have Initio Oud for Greatness. Oh, I am so in love with this fragrance. This was one of my first niche fragrance purchases and it hooked me in. This is, you know, obviously got an oudy note in here. It does, after all, have oud in the name. I am really not an oud lover at all. I've purchased a lot of fragrances with oud in the past, and I almost always find it to be a mistake for me because I don't love that sort of barnyard, funky smelling oud. It always turns me off fragrance if I can smell that a lot. I don't know how they've done the oud in here, but it somehow manages to be the most perfect, beautiful, inoffensive oud I've ever encountered. It's so smooth. It has saffron and nutmeg in the opening here, and you definitely get that sort of airiness to it, which is quite unusual in oudy fragrances, heavy oudy fragrances. So maybe that balances it. I just don't know how they did it, but they've balanced this phenomenally so that the oud, bizarrely, because it's such a shouty, screamy note oud, that it just doesn't take over. It's just perfectly blended and rounded so that it works somehow perfectly. It's so unusual, this fragrance. It is a beast mode fragrance. It's going to be strong, it's going to be loud, and it's going to be a little warm, spicy, but not heavy and not sickly. But it has a bit of sweetness. It's so unusual. But so many people, whenever I wear this, I get so many compliments, so many people asking me about it. It's somehow very strange and unusual, but almost a crowd pleaser at the same time. Stunning, very different, very warm, spicy, perfect winter fragrance. I wouldn't really wear this in the summer, but evenings, winter, autumn, absolutely gorgeous, very unique, very different, darker. Again, quite intriguing, quite mysterious, very, very sexy. Certainly leans, I would say, more masculine. Certainly a man could wear this and it would be the sexiest, strongest, most powerful, impressive man you've ever met in your life. Next up, we have Giardini di Toscana's Bianco Latte. Such a viral fragrance. Definitely, without question, my favourite proper gourmand fragrance. I don't love this bottle. I think this is probably the only bottle on the desk in front of me that I don't love. It does feel a little young, but then I would say that this fragrance is probably a little younger than the rest of my favorites as well. This one took me by surprise because, like I said, I'm not a gourmand fan. And yes, this is, I would say this is a more classic gourmand than any of the others that I enjoy. But at the same time, it's still not a really sickly sweet, heavy, cloying gourmand. It still stays a little lighter. It's got that burnt sugar quality to it. It smells very much like a creme brulee, if that is something you would enjoy. Absolutely stunning. The performance of this fragrance is ridiculous. I used to have, in my old dance studio, we used to come in, walk upstairs into the dance studio where the changing rooms were and where the parents sit. And one of my friends there would say she could smell me coming whenever I was wearing this because it's just such a room filler. So definitely not a summer friendly fragrance. Definitely not a hot weather fragrance. It certainly would become too much. No one could breathe. But this is absolutely stunning. I didn't want to like this because it kind of goes against everything I think I like. But something about it is just so special. It's so creamy, and that burnt sugar, that creme brulee, that little sweetness, really beautiful warmth to it without being sort of really too heavy and thick. Never becomes too cloying, but it is, like I said, a beast mode fragrance, and people are going to smell you and they are all going to compliment you and love it because it really is a big crowd pleaser. Probably my most complimented fragrance, maybe other than Baccarat Rouge. I'm not 100% sure we're neck and neck, but a really popular, beautiful crowd pleaser. Next up, we have a second ex nihilo fragrance in this top 10, and this is Brompton Immortals. Wowie. Exact same bottle as the Irreverence, that gorgeous classic black and gold understated delight. So this is an oriental fragrance. Again, really oriental vanillas especially have become like one of my all-time favorites. Very much a warm, spicy, very much an alluring, rich, dark fragrance. This doesn't have any caramel, but it's kind of in the same ballpark as the Irreverence. I would say it's almost like your sort of daytime, evening, like angel devil. That's kind of how I would describe these two. They have similarities and differences. The Irreverence being a bit more innocent and girly, and Brompton Immortals being darker, more spicy, just a little more naughty, if you know what I mean. So again, this has saffron and pink pepper in the opening. It has rose in the middle, which is very unusual for me to love a fragrance that contains rose. But I will say it's the lightest hint of it. The issue I have, the beef I have with rose in fragrance, is I feel like the vast majority of fragrances that contain rose literally just smell of a rose bush. They smell so heavily of rose. Rose just sort of overpowers every other note a lot of the time in fragrances, and a lot of fragrances are designed to have rose notes are rose with like a hint of something else, and that's not this at all. I really cannot detect more than the barest hint of rose in here at all, so that doesn't bother me whatsoever. This is sexy sex on legs. That's what this is. This would not be something I would wear to the office. This is dark, mysterious. This is a power suit. I would probably wear this if I was going to an interview or a disciplinary. Perfect for a disciplinary. You're going to smell someone who's wearing this and you're going to be intimidated. This is a powerful, strong power suit on fire. You could wear this to the Hunger Games and everybody would just run away from you and you would win with no harm required. Incredibly well blended, so much so that, a bit like I said with the rose, I can't really pick out individual notes. I can clearly pick out the saffron because my nose just knows where there's saffron and it's just incredibly stunning and probably my all-time favorite note, so of course I can pick that out, but otherwise it's so well blended. The word to describe this fragrance is opulent. There's almost something a bit sort of regal about it. It's a very proud and confident fragrance, absolutely stunning, again quite unique but with so much to love about it at the same time. It's special and different and it isn't going to smell like anything you've ever smelled before, but people will love it. It's very, very beautiful but unapproachable. Stay away from me if I'm having like a meeting with someone who I think is cross with me. This is what I would wear. And finally we have BDK's Soir Extract. I absolutely love the colour of this bottle. It's so beautiful and I feel like it really represents the juice inside. It's like this dark, mysterious, fruity concoction. So this is an oriental floral, and again, it's way more floral than I typically like my fragrances to be. This is so unique to me and so special. You know, this has, when I look at this notes list, this has a lot of fruity notes, a lot of florals, and very few notes in here that I look for when I'm trying to find a new fragrance. There is really not a single note on this list other than maybe Ambroxan and vanilla, although that typically just is in a lot of fragrances that I love. I don't necessarily look for it. There's really very few notes in here that I am drawn to or even like, yet somehow this fragrance is stunning. It's also quite versatile. Again, I could wear this and could wear this year round, summer, winter, daytime, evening. It is quite dark and rich and warm for such a fruity floral fragrance. I find this quite dualistic. It's almost got this very one side that is fruity and floral and light, and then this other side that's dark and mysterious and quite warm and cozy, and how it sort of blends and mixes together and it does all of that at the same time and at once is very unique and special. I think it's stunning. It definitely has this mysterious darkness and depth to it, which, given how much of that fruity floral it has, I don't know how they've accomplished this. I think the ginger, it doesn't stand out as something I can pick out, but I think that adds almost this sort of sharpness to it. Again, it's like this sort of really contradictory experience, this fragrance, which I love. I find it so interesting. It's not something where it's very linear. You spray it and it's like, say, Bianco Latte, where you're just getting creme brulee, burnt sugar, or like the Sunset Caramel, where you're getting creamy coconut throughout. This has so many different levels and layers to it and different experiences, and a journey is so interesting, which I think is what is so special about this. So many layers, so much of a journey throughout the scent profile that starts off one way and throughout the middle it changes, and then it changes again in the dry down, and you just are constantly getting something new. So interesting, so beautifully done, so unique and different to anything else I own, and again really quite versatile given how different it is. Head over heels in love with this one. Very, very special. And so there you have it. Those are my current top 10 fragrances of all time. Some absolutely stunning, breathtaking fragrances in here. Hopefully there's something that's caught your eye, something alluring, something you want to look a little more closely at or get a decant from. By the way, I'm always being asked, where do you get your decants? If you look up on Google, you know, fragrance samples, look for the specific one you're wanting samples. Depending on where you're based, there will be a whole load of options for you to try. eBay has millions of them. I personally would rather find a reputable brand that I get a lot of them from. I use almost solely Small Aromas here in the UK, but if you are based elsewhere, I'm not sure if they will ship to you or not. And they don't have every fragrance, so sometimes I will just Google the fragrance and sample and find a company that seems reputable and that I can use PayPal to purchase from. But if Small Aromas has it, that's where I will go 99.9% of the time. That's where I get almost all of my samples, and I very rarely, although I can confidently blind buy at this point, I often don't these days. I'll often try and get a sample first because, like I said, I really am not looking to grow my collection. I only want to add something different or something really wow factor, knock my socks off at this point. So, you know, although I will enjoy a lot of the fragrances I try, it doesn't necessarily make it a full bottle for me anymore, because I'm trying to keep my collection smaller but mighty. So there you have it. Please let me know, what is your current #1 signature fragrance, favorite fragrance? Do you have a huge rotation, or do you stick to a couple and you just really like to have that signature scent? Please let me know some of your favorites in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for joining me here today, especially if fragrance is not typically your thing. Thank you so much for supporting this fragrance video on my channel. And the only way we're going to get more fragrance videos is if they do okay, and it's not going to mean the end of me. So thank you so much for supporting this slightly different video, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.